quote, "I am sitting here with my father, and we would like to understand why the commitment made has not been fulfilled. Tell the director that I would like to resolve this now before it gets out of hand, and now means tonight. And Z, if I get a call or text from anyone involved in this other than you, Zhang, or the chairman, I will make certain that between the man sitting next to me and every person he knows and my ability to forever hold a grudge, that you will regret not following my direction. I am sitting here waiting for the call with my father." End quote. There it is, folks, the threatening WhatsApp message Hunter, the smartest man Joe knows, sent to a Chinese communist business associate in 2017, demanding payment or else. And wouldn't you know it, just days later, $5 million drops into the bank account like magic. And unless there is an episode of Maury Povich we're all unaware of, Hunter's father, the man in the room, is Joe Biden, former vice president and current president, who has said and lied repeatedly that he has and had no knowledge of his son's foreign business dealings. We know this thanks to Supervisory IRS agent Gary Shapley, who testified before Congress last week that federal agents had evidence Hunter failed to pay about $2.2 million in taxes dating to 2014, and they planned to pursue multiple felonies before they were thwarted by political appointees of the Injustice Department. In fact, Shapley said the meddling was so egregious there is no way of knowing if evidence of other criminal activity existed concerning Hunter Biden or President Biden. That meddling included refusal to approve search warrants as well as specific indictments sought in both D.C. and L.A., plus allowing statute of limitations to expire on some serious offenses. So yeah, this is exactly what it sounds like. Hunter is a crook, Joe is a crook, and our Injustice Department and FBI have been doing the most to allow and cover up for the crookery. The Bidens, man, they're just like the Clintons, but without that blue dress. And what's worse? Both families are so brazen and shameless. They flaunt it in front of our faces as if to say, "Catch me if you can." Just one day after this bombshell testimony and a few days after Hunter's sweetheart plea deal for tax evasion and illegal possession of a firearm, Joe, Hunter, and Merrick Garland attend a state dinner before Joe and his crackhead son depart on a weekend getaway to Camp David. How on God's green earth is Joe able to get by without having to make a statement or give any comment on the latest in his family corruption? This is unfreaking believable. It's infuriating. But I cling to the optimistic hope that the walls are closing in on the big guy. And if there is a shred of hope left for our justice system, the House of Cards will fall. Joining me now with more and what's next is the Congresswoman from New York, member of the House Ways and Means Committee, Representative Claudia Tenney. Congresswoman, it is so great to have you on such an important month for revelations that are coming out about the Biden crime family. So I just want to go right into it. When you saw this WhatsApp message, were you shocked? What was going through your mind when you guys uncovered this, which should be the biggest bombshell to date?
Not shocked at all. This is just more confirmation of what we knew that was revealed in the laptop held by Miranda Devine that was held by the FBI for about a year prior to it even being disclosed. And by the way, the whistleblower testimony, the two whistleblowers, one that is named and one that chose not to be named, that were released on Thursday out of the Ways and Means Committee in a special executive session, reveals that all this information was known by the FBI and the DOJ. And in fact, they attempted to slow walk all this information to obstruct the prosecution and the gathering of evidence of the Biden family. And I can't emphasize enough, I say this because people think it's all about Hunter Biden and he got charged. He had this slap on the wrist, if you could even call it that, on taxes, by the way, without this evidence being released. Now, remember, the Democrats all claimed in this hearing that we need more information. This is a half-baked information. I was like, exactly. We need to get this information out so that we can let the DOJ do their job. They're saying, well, geez, we thought you backed the blue. You're attacking the FBI, this venerable institution, the Department of Justice. Well, we know that Merrick Garland actually denied the U.S. attorney from being able to bring these charges, get a special counsel, either whether it was in Delaware or California. So he's lying. He had a hand in this. And I think it's important to note that this is about Hunter Biden, but it's more importantly about Joe Biden. It's how Joe Biden used Hunter as a proxy, using his influence, his position as a senator, and especially as the vice president, to funnel money from foreign countries into his own families by money laundering, tax evasion, and also what we're finding out, all the other things that are associated with this, potentially bribery. We see obstruction of justice by the Department of Justice in not allowing these to come forward, and the statute of limitations being tripped by delaying, because now we can't get the 14 tax evasion. Now we can't get the 15 tax evasion. And this is all deliberate because it lowers the charges against Hunter Biden. And we've got to continue to, this is now when it begins. And I'm going to tell you one thing the House Republicans really need to do. One thing I'm really active with Chairman Jason Smith, and I talked to him about it the other day, is we have got to do an amicus brief. That's all we can do on the federal side, to urge the federal judge not to accept this, joke of a plea bargain with Hunter Biden. We've got to make sure they get into the investigation, expose Joe, and make sure that the American people finally get justice on the Biden family.
What I think is so frustrating to the average American is that whether it's this WhatsApp message or the 17 recordings or the money trail that James Comer and Jim Jordan and others on House Oversight have laid in front of our eyes, we've got multiple whistleblowers at this point. It seems like we're just stacking up evidence, taller than we can even peer over at this point. And yet, again, nothing happens. And not only that, but the Biden family, even after this sweetheart plea deal for tax evasion and legal possession of a firearm, then you've got them going to a state dinner with Merrick Garland and Hunter Biden. Then you've got Hunter Biden jumping on the plane with Joe to go vacation at Camp David for the weekend. I mean, it seems to me that the way that they are acting is not only that they believe that they're innocent, but more so that they believe they're never going to have to face true justice or accountability. So what is next? Will we get to the bottom of this before the next election?
Well, here's the problem. They are doing it in plain sight because I think, and this is just me speculating, throw it right out there, put it all out in front, and people say, see, there's nothing wrong. It's just the Republicans complaining. And I think the biggest frustration for me as a Republican and for all of us as Americans is that we do not have the power to prosecute. We can continue to collect the evidence. We can shine the light on it. By the way, imagine if we didn't have our slim 5-vote majority, we wouldn't know most of this or any of this. This is why it's coming out. But we've got to get this information. Imagine if Jason Smith were not the chair of Ways and Means, this would have been put under by the Democratic majority. They all voted against letting this information out. I think they're going to regret it at some point. But look, I'm starting to see that when we can get a president in place who needs to put on in the Department of Justice an attorney general who will do this, who will prosecute. Under President Trump, that was one of the most disappointing things, is that we had Jeff Sessions. He recused himself because of the Russia collusion hoax that we now know is a total hoax. Another example, the Democrats projecting hoax when, guess in fact, who was doing the hoax? It was Hillary Clinton. Why is Hillary Clinton walking free? All of these people should have been prosecuted, should have faced justice, and they did not, because we didn't have the aggressive prosecutors and the aggressive Department of Justice that we needed. In the event, and if we, God willing, we get a president elected, Trump or anyone else of the great candidates that we have, we must start prosecuting. We need to clean house. We need to get these institutions have no credibility. Every American feels intimidated. They feel like our government you can't trust. And if you're on the wrong side and the wrong party, you could be prosecuted for nothing. You could have charges drummed up against you like President Trump faced and so many Trump supporters faced, who were like charged with crimes when they really didn't commit a crime. They might have had a civil violation transformed into a crime, or they may go to a county attorney like an Alvin Bragg, a county district attorney bringing federal charges against President Trump. That's how desperate they are. Maybe the Republicans should start going to the county, Republican county attorneys around the country and start talking about prosecuting Democrats who are committing federal crimes in their communities.
And I think part of the problem here and why this feels so insurmountable is that even if we do get a great Republican in the White House come 2024, a lot of Americans feel like the swamp runs so deep when it comes to the DOJ, the FBI, the CIA, I mean, you name it. It feels like there are so many agencies, so many activists within these departments working on behalf of Democrats that it feels like unless you just completely clean house and start over from the ground up, it doesn't feel like any of this is ever going to be solved. And a lot of us fear that we get a Republican in office, that these institutions, these agencies are just going to go after that president, no matter if it's Trump or DeSantis or anybody else. We feel like this runs so deep. How do you rid that cancer without yanking out the entire tumor and starting over?
Well, one of the great ideas, everybody talks about term limits, which I support, but the term limits on bureaucrats is really important, and eliminating a lot of the civil service protections for these people. I've heard from numerous people who work either in FBI, DOJ. You remember, everybody in these dirty cop organizations is not dirty. They're beholden or could lose their jobs and their livelihood to the corrupt people that tend to be at the top. But if you cannot deal with the civil service system, and you've got people who are blocking, as they did, we saw in the DOJ from the witness testimony from very credible whistleblowers at the IRS, if we can't get rid of them and clean house from top to bottom, then we should talk about defunding these agencies. And that's something that's happening in the process. I look at a selective defund. I don't think you can just say we're not going to have the FBI anymore, because there are good people doing work at the FBI. They may not be at the upper echelons making those decisions, but we have to start looking into, are we funding organizations that are using our money to go on these witch hunts against people for political reasons? This is partisanship. This isn't about justice. This isn't about fairness. And I think that's one of the things we have to do. But of course, we have to have more than one branch of the government. We have the House of Representatives. We don't have the Senate, and we don't have the White House. And it makes it very difficult. And we've got to get the American people to understand how important this is. It isn't a Republican Democrat issue. It's a bureaucrat issue. And we have allowed the bureaucrats to run the show. And I come from a state like New York, where we have a massive bureaucracy. All of our rights are crowded out, very similar to what we see in the federal government. So we have got to start cleaning house where we can. We don't have a lot of opportunities in New York because our governor is a Democrat, and she faces a left-wing veto-proof majority in the assembly. So in our side, we've got to stick together as Republicans. We've got to deal with this whole issue of ballot harvesting. We've got to find a way to win elections. We've got to be as diabolical and grueling when it comes to this process. And I know I founded the Election Integrity Caucus. I know what I went through. I spent 100 days in court. I won by a very narrow margin in 2020. We engaged in legal ballot harvesting in 2022, and I won by 34 points. It can be done, but every single Republican across the nation has to get on board to ensure we win, to restore our Constitution, restore freedom, and restore credibility to our government, and especially these very powerful agencies like the FBI, the DOJ, the IRS. They have so much power, and they're abusing it. And I know we got rid of Nancy Pelosi, who abused power like no one else. We need to continue to clean house and to stand up for our principles, our constitutional principles, which is what Republicans typically do.
You've laid this out so nicely, but the thing that concerns me is that there is a giant disconnect between what you're saying, what we're saying on my show, what we're saying on conservative outlets and Fox News, and what the average American is hearing. Do you think that Republicans at large are correctly messaging how important this is, the Biden crime family investigation, getting rid of the corruption within the Injustice Department and the FBI and the CIA? Do you think that the Republican Party at large, along with the RNC, is messaging this correctly to the American people? And if not, what tweaks would you make to make it make sense to people that are not like-minded?
Look, I think the Republican Party tries very hard. We have everything working against us. The media is against us. The secondary schools, all the colleges, institutions are against us. Now we've got a war in our K through 12 schools with all the nonsense going on there, with the teachers unions, dominating and controlling and manipulated by the Democratic Party, and taxpayer dollars going to them that we can't stop. We've got big tech against us. We've got so many things working against us. But one of the things Republicans do that Democrats don't do, we attack each other. We go after each other. Our media goes after each other because we apply purity tests. The Democrats never apply purity tests. I'll give you an example. If the Democrats voted and put a bill up that would say, on noon every Friday, we're going to slaughter innocent kittens and puppies, they would vote for it because it was in the best interest of the Democrats. We actually think for ourselves and would say, that's not a good idea. I don't think we're going to vote for that. We split off. We do need to stick together more. And that's what they do. That's their strength against us. We're in the minority. We have to cobble together, more independence. We have to actually do better messaging. We have to be more aggressive. We have to be not afraid to take on others. I mean, one of the greatest things about President Trump is he gave a lot of courage to Republicans. It's okay to come out and stand up for our sovereignty and our border. It's okay to stand up for our principles. They mean something. They're important. And I think that's a big one, probably one of the most important things Trump did, among many others. But this is where Republicans need to fight back. And I think we do try to fight back, but you're constantly getting hit off at the pass. And I'll tell you, there are a lot of Republican institutions, all different ones, that all work against each other. And I think that is our biggest problem. Honestly, what I do, because I care about self-governance, I explain every vote that I take on the House floor in detail. So tens of thousands of Republicans and people around the nation follow my website, tenny.house.gov. It's on every platform. I just surpassed my 500th vote explanation. You don't have to try to wade your way through the website in the esoteric language that is often bill making. You go right to my website. I explain every vote. You can find out that the baby formula bill was not about baby formula. It was another deceitful move by the Democrats, really, to give money to the FDA. So things like that. I explain and decode Washington so that we have self-governance. We have taxpayers and people that understand that our right is to have self-governance. It's not to have elites rule over us like the Democrats want, like the communists want, like China, like it happens in China and Russia and all of our enemy countries. We want to be self-governing. And that is the ultimate question. If we can't think for ourselves, if we can't understand what's going on and make good decisions about voting and understand what's grifting, what's not, what's real, what isn't, then we're not going to win. And that's how we win. We've got to be informed. We've got to be good voters, and we've got to get out there and don't go down every conspiracy rabbit hole. Figure out, honestly, and independents like you and others who kind of call foul. You're not afraid to tell the truth. You're not afraid to say to someone, hey, that's not exactly right. We need this person fighting for us. That's what helps. That's how we win. It's all about better information.
Well, I think you're exactly right, and you do an excellent job of that. And I think this is going to be, in 2024, a messaging battle and an election strategy battle that we, on both fronts, need to do better at. But I think that there's also a problem because within the GOP, you've got a lot of people that want to be what I call political influencers, and maybe not necessarily lawmakers, but more influencers, and they want to make a name for themselves. They want to get a headline, and it works against the broader goal. But I appreciate you. Thank you for your continued efforts to work on this with the pay-to-play Biden crime family. We are all waiting and hoping that the House of Cards is about to fall. Thanks for everything that you do to help fight for our republic and for the Republicans that desperately need your leadership.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it. And thank you for what you do. We really appreciate it. Calling balls and strikes is what we really need to start doing.
Well,
Thanks so much,
appreciate you
Tommy.
so much. God bless you, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. God bless you as well.